So thanks again for joining us. This is the Cabbage Cafe. We're here every Tuesday from 4 to 6, and we talk about the legalization of cannabis here. That's what we do, right?
Yeah, we do. And we do it with Derek, who's
That's
here
me.
squawking off right now, and Debra Young, who just entered our space and is...
Wait, hold on. Let me get you on here, D.
She's settling in, coming in,
that?
unraveling from the cold, and calling in. She's trying to say hello, but I can
All right,
assure
she's
you
on.
that she says hello.
Am I on?
Oh, she's on.
Okay.
You're on.
Sorry I'm a little bit late, but it's winter time. Things happen.
Just glad you made it.
Rick today is calling in from the Flint area and is participating throughout the show on phone, and we're going to attack all the current topics of the day, of the era, of the cannabis world, as usual.
A lot of fun stuff to talk about today.
Expect input from everybody, and I think we're going to have some other people showing up here throughout the show as well, possibly calling in.
Yeah, Chris is going to be here. I know he's a fan favorite.
And David Rudoy, if his schedule permits, because he has a few meetings, will also call in and talk to us a little bit more, continue our conversation from last time. And
nice.
Very cool.
Very good. Very good. So we got a full house today, a full show. So fill me in. What's going on up in Lansing today? What was happening? Can you let me know about this? Yeah, mysterious. Very mysterious.
And I wonder if I'm not sure what the attendance is, and maybe we can hear from somebody who was there or who has gotten good word about what's going on there. But I think that was a deterrent for a lot of people, some of the discussion and the way that there's this break for over an hour in the middle of it while they go discuss things in private.
They were smoking doobies.
I doubt it, because this is the Bailey.
No, we were smoking doobies. They were.
Yeah, we were the ones who were smoking the doobies while they were in there deliberating. And are they now? Do we know if they are looking at applications or if they're still thinking about some detailed policy approaches, or what's their deliberation about?
Being in a public forum, and then they have to retire to the private area so that they can discuss the things that are protected by either HIPAA or by other protections contained in the MMFLA, and then come back on the record and then adjourn the meeting. That's just the way that the rules are stated for that. So it's uncomfortable that they had that big break in the middle, but the only thing they really could be talking about would be protected information, and that would be application stuff.
And even if there were public testimony allowed, as there have been at many of these meetings, their policy is to not even respond. So we don't even know if there was public testimony necessarily, but if so, the format is to get no response. You just have the ability to put on record some kind of a concern or statement about what's going on. Isn't that right?
That is absolutely right. And last time we went to the license meeting, there were very few people there, probably 50. Now, that's a lot for a public meeting, but it's nowhere near the 300 or 400 that showed up the previous times. And the public testimony went so quickly, 15 minutes maybe tops, and then they dismissed everything right after it with no conversation and no dialogue. That meeting, unfortunately, I'm told by BMMR Director Andrew Brisboe, the video from that meeting was technically damaged, so we don't have any recording of that previous session, but it was really brief.
Right. I remember we did talk about that on the show. You called in that day, and that was our discussion. But so I can understand this. Probably we may hear from somebody who was there. We'll certainly let people know about this next week, and maybe even on the sites in between then if we evolve a little bit. We'll have to see about that.
Yeah, what's the call-in number, Jamie? If anybody was there, they can call in and brief us.
Sure. 313-879-5050. 5059. That's 313-879-5059. CRBradio.com, although you should know that if you can hear it. So.
That is a good point.
That is true.
So
I'll tell you this. I've got some great stories for the news at 5 o'clock, too. You won't believe some of the ridiculous stuff I'm going to tell you about at 5 p.m.
We have a really tight schedule. News may be at 5:02 tonight.
I don't know. I'll keep it on track
can
for you
dig it.
guys.
We'll see how
The
it
news
goes.
can wait.
So there's no donut here for you this week. I just brought waters. That was it. So you're not really missing out not being here, Rick.
I think it was one of these times in which we kind of made it here a little bit later than typical and not as prepared, but here nonetheless, and
Yeah.
focusing on the meat of
Nice.
this time, which is
Yeah.
the radio show.
There you go.
And I like to
Summer.
focus.
It's never
I like to
weird
focus
for
on the
dead
meat.
that way.
Yeah, they got this drum set here, so I've been trying to show up early so I can just
Beating the meat a
yeah,
little bit.
beat it.
Wow. Work the skins, eh? Okay, go for it. Sure. But,
So-
it comes down to the question of shit house or shit hole. I mean, aren't they both essentially the same, guys? Isn't it? We're going to talk about current events. How about Donald J. Trump? Donald John Trump putting his foot in his mouth yet again in front of people that aren't afraid to talk to media by calling certain nations derogatory terms in a closed-door meeting. And then after immediately or initially at least confirming and diminishing the effort, now certain Republicans are trying to deny that the phrase was ever said.
Well, that's my
And,
understanding. Yeah, is that he actually said shit house and not shit hole, which of course there's a tremendous difference
I don't know.
in what they infer. I mean,
I mean,
one's kind of flattering, and the other one might be seen as a derogatory.
Which one is
yeah,
flattering?
wait, which one of those is a good thing?
Explain that to me.
Well, I think it's funny that he tried to say, no, I didn't say shithole. I said shit house. But worse, I think, is before that was even asserted that he may have said shit house, which I really don't understand what the big difference would be if he did say that. The apologists were immediately saying, well, that's how the average person, that's how like a common guy looks at that sometimes in countries in Africa. Or, so he's just talking like the normal person. Which is of course an absurd. If they're at that level, they have to use that shit as an
there are many people
excuse.
who do think like that, but the president of
But
the
that
United
doesn't-
States has to be on a different level.
Not
This
an
is just-
excuse for the president to speak like that. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd also say that I don't think the majority of Americans
Not the
feel that way.
majority.
I'm sure that maybe in New York there's some pretty vocal people that don't like immigrants and dig it, no problem. But the fact is most of us see the United States and our role on a global scale as the benefactor of poor nations, as the person who has the biggest economy on the planet and therefore has the biggest responsibility to help developing nations. When we turn a cold shoulder or when we become discriminatory against nations that are developing and to some degree are having difficulty developing because of rules and prohibitions we force them to take in the international community, when we demean or diminish them, we demean ourselves and our purpose. And I think we lose our center, too, of where we're at. Jamie mentioned to me earlier today the statement at the base of the Statue of Liberty, bring me your cold, you're wretched, you're tired, you're huddled masses.
Your shithole.
I mean, unless they
hours.
come from a shithole country, of course. And of course, if they
We want
they
them-
were not in a shithole
no-
country, they're not anxious to get over here, probably.
We want all the Danish, huddled masses,
The
all of the
Norwegians.
blonde-haired Norwegians and Swedes.
They're
that are
whiter,
huddled masses
less
come
crime.
over.
They don't want to come here.
They don't want to rape as many people or rip any people off or be as lazy, probably. 'cause-
Yeah.
I know, but Donald Trump also says that he wants to move to a merit-based immigration system instead of a lottery-based immigration system. Well, what does merit mean? Merit means if you're not educated, you don't deserve to come to our country. If you don't have money already, you don't deserve to live in our country. If you don't have something to benefit us, you don't deserve to live here. But that's not America that I'm
No.
respecting. Even in Flint, Michigan, we were told that we take everybody. We are the melting pot. Bring me your wretched, right?
That's what I always thought.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. So it's a concern.
It's a
This
huge
immigration
concern.
thing going forward is bad. The Cole memo being rescinded.
We've talked about that a few times here, too. That's more like directly related to our stuff, obviously. And
Yep.
So,
Yep, and I'll have some stories about that in the news too.
does it concern who the Eastern District federal prosecutor is?
No,
So I don't think we
Does not.
got there too much with the story, but as it stands right now, we know who the Eastern Federal District Prosecutor is, but I don't think that we're sure who the Western Federal District Prosecutor is.
I got a couple minutes while we're doing it. I'll look that up.
New people appointed by Jeff Sessions, the U.S. Department of Justice, to fill those roles. The guy in the Eastern District, I can't think of his name right now. Maybe somebody can chime in with that in a second, or we'll look it up. He comes from Schuette's office. He comes from Bill Schuette's.
This is his boy. This is Schuette's boy.
Attorney General office, and
what's his name?
he was asked, what are you going to do about the cannabis industry here? And he said, I'm going to focus in on, and he gave a list of a bunch of other things that I believe we would hope prosecutors would find more important than state legal recognized cannabis stuff. And we wonder too if he does get engaged in prosecutions and using resources for that, if the amount of scrutiny and how it might reflect back on Schuette at some point, what would happen. I mean, we can't tell what he's going to do, but he says he's not going to. A lot of the problems we've had traditionally, though, have been in the Western District, and it's kind of scarier to not even know who that is. And an investigation can start there and go anywhere, and depending on circumstances. And so it doesn't. If somebody's willing to do these prosecutions, that's bad enough, and we should probably find that out. That's an X factor.
Well, the only thing I'm seeing right now is that there's a temporary attorney general. We know he's called an interim United States attorney, and his name is Andrew B. Burge. He was appointed in November, and I don't see, as of right now, any news about a new appointee. However, Matthew J. Schneider is the former Schuette office person who is now the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, the former federal prosecutor. And he comes in on the wake of Barbara McQuaid being our prosecutor here. And I got to tell you, she was just great. She really approached it with a serious crime first mentality, and really never prioritized pursuing cannabis issues.
So the biggest criticism I have of her is that she endorses Pat Miles.
Yes.
Which of course makes a little bit of sense because he's a fellow, federal prosecutor, and there's that obvious link there. But I disagree with that. Obviously, we support Dana Nessel and remind people, join the Democratic Party no matter where you are in the political spectrum.
Get on the Dana bandwagon. It's the only way to do it is to join the party. You've got to do it.
Yep. And show up at the convention. Let's try to get her endorsed. And take it from there. There's some other Democrats who I really would like to see win. Of course, I don't want to see Schuette be our next governor. He's kind of some people are saying that he has been, through his cycle with trying to combat all this stuff, and he's going to, go along with this stuff. And
bullshit. I don't buy it at all.
Right, and his track record is not one that is endearing, and it's not one that's very forgivable either. A lot of people were really seriously hurt by his misinterpretations and going out of his way to create stupid opinions that are kind of damaging to the intent and to the people who are trying to participate and the expectations of those who are trying to participate in this program. And many people thought they were following the law and got busted and had to pay big fines and get records and sometimes go to jail and
lose all their property.
And so fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck him and the train he rode on, and his boy Pat Miles and whoever else is attached to.
Many of the Democratic gubernatorial candidates, are good on our issue, and we could be good there. I know a lot of people, and myself included, kind of like the idea of Gretchen Whitmer, just because she probably represents the best chance of challenging Schuette. There was polling done. She's running evenly with him, and she doesn't nearly have the name recognition as he does.
Yeah, at this point, I would just take even candidates that are neutral on the issue, rather than people we have to combat against.
Well, lesser of two evils, but
we're
fortunate to have people that are very clearly in support,
right.
and they articulate why they are, and that's something I want to support as opposed to these guys
still running and not talking. We still don't know what Andy Levin's feelings are on this. I've messaged him a bunch of times. He has not responded back, so I feel he's dodging me on the question.
So I read this interesting article related to that, and it's a lot of the longtime Democrats have caught up at times during the drug war and the height of some of the really intensified moments of it and restrictions, and they were been called out politically for being soft on crime and soft on drugs, and some of them are still stinging from that stigma and been trying to correct that in their minds ever since, and are still stuck in that kind of mentality, which obviously doesn't work well for having an open mind to the reality of cannabis, which many have, including
and the reality of public opinion, of how
That
their
should be a part of it.
constituents feel.
You know, when you're part of a political system that predicates almost everything you do and the money you receive and the way people perceive you based on polling data,
Right.
you would think these people would get with the goddamn program, because all the polls tell them that we are the majority at this point.
Well, it's traditionally, though, politicians take a long time to catch up with the consciousness of the people, and cannabis has got money involved and big police interests involved, and all types of weird shit over the years, and so.
Well, I'm astounded that they're going to that the party that I've been a member of for so many years since I was in high school is going to step back and let the Republicans take the lead on this shit. It blows my mind every time I see something like this come down.
And I'm kind of biased, I'll admit, but after the somewhat misfire with handling the momentum that Bernie was creating and things like that, and letting it kind of fizzle out and not capturing the energy and all the people from all over the political philosophies, just wanting something that was kind of fresh and new and was constitutional based and that type of stuff. Dana's kind of representing that too, and to harness that and try to ride it a little bit, you think would make sense for some of the leadership of the Dems. But these elites are kind of very old school. They're not changing their minds too quickly.
And one by one, they're aging out, retiring, scandaling out, whatever. So. Hopefully,
scandaling out.
Scandaling out. This is a reality, Rick. That's a verb.
They fidget around with young people inappropriately, get called out for it.
Here's one thing I'll say is that when we start looking at beyond Michigan's borders federally, look at the people who are driving the conversation on cannabis in the United States Congress, and it is Dems. I mean, we're talking Cory Booker, Blumenauer, Rohrabacher. These guys, these are predominantly Democrats. There are some Republican strong voices, and I like what Rand Paul says. To some degree on the issue. He sometimes vacillates. But to Jamie's point, though, that they have this they're sort of gun shy on this issue. That whole soft on crime label has been used very effectively year after year after year to minimize the electability of Democratic candidates. It's very wise for them to be afraid of being labeled soft on crime. The question becomes, at what point do they shed those old fears, and they start to prove that phrase no longer holds weight when you're talking about cannabis, especially in a state like Michigan,
right,
where the populace is so used to it not being criminal anymore.
Right.
Hey, we are approaching 4:20, and that's
Recess
important to
time.
us around here. That's one of the reasons to having a show 4 to 6 p.m.
That's right.
And we're going to celebrate it for a few minutes. I'm sure Rick will do his own thing in his own way in a small private room, maybe with the aid of some graphic images.
Private areas, Rick,
and,
which is Jamie's.
We'll all resume here in just a few minutes, and we'll talk further about what's going on in the cannabis world and politics and important, interesting things at large.
Yep. Enjoy your 420. Oh, all right.
We're back.
Now we're back.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I forgot at the beginning of the show to mention that this was our first episode, and
Sure
then I
is.
realized that was getting really old, and so that's probably why I didn't do it.
Yes.
And in the meantime, during the break, we've been joined by Chris.
All right, Chris.
I'm here.
Chris.
And Chris likes extracts and concentrates, and
Who don't?
getting very effective by consuming them,
Yep.
Yeah.
and knows a lot about how they come into being.
Is
and
this
talks
his
about that
Playboy
sometimes.
profile?
Yes.
Is it Playboy profile?
Yeah.
Chris, enjoy the extracts.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. Cabbage Cafe, here every Tuesday. What's up, dude?
Is Rick, you hanging in there?
I sure am. And while I was on break there for 420, I did a little looking into this Western District of Michigan situation, Jamie.
What'd you find out?
Ooh.
Well,
We got
they have not yet named a new district's attorney for the Western District. They still have that interim guy. But they did decide, Attorney General Jeff Sessions selected the Western District of Michigan to get a new Assistant U.S. Attorney General specifically to combat violent crime.
Okay.
Now, I ask you, Michigan's divided into the eastern section and the western section. The eastern section contains Detroit, Pontiac, Saginaw, Flint. The western district contains Grand Rapids?
Half of Lansing. The kind of line kind of goes through the middle of Lansing, pretty much, I think.
Lansing, ooh. So I guess my point
hood,
being,
right?
Kalamazoo.
The hood of Grand Rapids.
Maybe there was a need. Maybe they were short a guy. I don't know, but it just seems awkward to me. But I also ran across an article too about marijuana grower sentenced to 12 years out of the Western District just in December. Now, that's Spencer Troy Ward,
Yes.
of Bruce Crossing, which I know is a UP city. He had dispensaries in a couple of different towns, Watersmeet, Iron River, and Marquette. He had a farm that he was growing cannabis on, and some of that cannabis found its way onto the Native American reservations in the Upper Peninsula, of which there are many. And the Native American police reported it to the locals or to the feds because it's a federal issue. And they prosecuted him, and he's now sentenced to 12 years, 7 months in prison.
Wow.
He had 100 pounds on him.
Hey, Rick, let's hold that thought for a second because we got a caller. I don't want to miss him. Hello, this is the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Who do we got? Nobody. They hung up.
Wow.
Okay, Rick, continue your thought, please.
It's just a sad story. I mean, we've seen this before, but this is one of those instances where we see federal prosecutors getting involved in a Michigan case for two reasons. First of all, because the amount of cannabis possessed at that time, 100 pounds of processed marijuana, seems not in compliance with the medical marijuana law, even if you were to invoke Section 8. I doubt it would be considered state legal. Secondarily, you're talking about a federal property, which would be the Native American reservations in the Upper Peninsula. So in that instance, you know, I can see why the feds would take that particular case. I don't think we can blame Jeff Sessions for that one. But in most instances, if there's a violation of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, that should be prosecuted by state-based law enforcement agents, not federal anyway. The whole thing with the Cole memo was that, in my personal opinion, it never meant anything to begin with, because state-based violations are typically processed by state-based actors, like Michigan State Police or county sheriffs.
That's true.
And it's always been, and even regardless of the memo, that's simply kind of a policy guideline. The discretion is still with the prosecutor. And we saw the prosecutor in the Western District use that discretion to prosecute state-compliant medical marijuana program participants, and we know who they are, and it's one of the reasons why we don't want Pat Biles to win the endorsement for AG. And more than just Dana being the best candidate, we really don't want the guy who does stuff like that to be around. So you're right, and really what Jeff Sessions recently did was reiterate that, like, you don't even have to consider this policy thing, just it's your discretion. That's essentially the biggest change that came out of what he did. I mean, there could be more. There could be more issues with it, down the road. Somebody uses it for some fuel to really screw with some people. That's what one of the lawyers calling into Michael's show a couple weeks ago was concerned with, or who was in studio with the Schuyler angle. But by and large, that's what it says.
And there are really two policies that previously, let's just say, handcuffed federal prosecutors. The first was the Cole memo, which said if state programs meet these certain particular requirements, including no diversion to minors and things like that,
cartels don't benefit.
We
would all kind of agree with, actually.
They would honor it. But the second thing is the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, which is now called the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer Amendment, and that basically said that district attorneys were not allowed to use federal funds to pursue state legal medical marijuana or legal marijuana actions, if they were in compliance with state law. That provision, although it's still in effect, is removed from the current budget, and unless we have a continuing resolution to keep our economy, our government going on the 19th of this month, we may lose that ban on using federal funds. That's probably going to go away. So
But there is a bill that's been introduced that would also solve the issue by making it very clear that states can have self-determination on this issue.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
There are
Normal.
clear minds thinking on this.
I just want to say, incidentally, while I'm thinking about it, Michigan Normal, the group in which Rick Thompson sits on the board, is making a big push. I know I see Brad Forrester, fellow board member, really getting information out there and encouraging people to call their representatives to support this bill.
Yeah, Brad's breaking it down candidate by candidate, district by district.
Yep. And I'll say this. I was on a conference call with National Normal earlier at the end of last week, though, I'd like to say. And the people who are doing a lot of this at our national level are enthusiastic, energetic. They are a younger profile in key positions than I've seen from Normal in a long time. And these guys have their crap together. They know what they're doing, and they're putting out usable, bite-sized chunks of data that activists can take directly to lawmakers and decision makers in their own individual states. And they did that by breaking down all of the congresspersons from every district and giving them a grade and giving that information out to each one of the chapters that is covered by that district. So Brad's doing a great job of putting it out there, and I expect Normal on a national basis to deliver a lot more positive tools for our activist community as 2018 continues.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, we normally talk about the cannabis events that are going around town here locally, but it's been cold as shit, and there really is nothing happening anywhere. So there are a few events, though, that I'm always afraid to bring up because I'm not sure if we support them or if we are, because there are going to be some events out there that are like money hungry events. Where people are strictly trying to profit. Maybe the guests won't benefit whatsoever. So instead of just listing off these random events, I figured for this week's segment, I would bring them up and maybe get your guys' opinion.
And I know of a couple that for sure are good and that people should be.
Yeah, I know of one for sure that's really bad.
Sweet. See, this is exactly what I want. We got to call them out.
A lot, but most
and it's not coming up for a while, but you can start talking about how bad it is now and maybe get some people really educated on that if you want to.
Let's see if it's on his list.
And, want to mention, we're not paid by any of these people. No. These are not any of our sponsors. So this is all just legit, non-biased information. I see this one coming up on January 21st. It's the Am I Legalized Networking Night in Detroit.
That would be a good event.
The Carpe Diem.
And on the 20th, Am I Legalized has an event in Lansing at Beggar's Banquet.
Where's that one at?
In Lansing at Beggar's Banquet. I believe it starts at like 7 or something like that.
Nice, and because it's a podcast show and it's not just, Detroit. It's all Michigan. That gives you two opportunities. So if you're
and Rick and I both sit on the board of Am I Legalized and like to see some good action take place from them. There's some new people coming in to try to bring it some direction and mission that it's kind of needed for a while. Deborah used to serve, and was kind of frustrated with some of that in part. And we
don't want to get into that now. That will be a whole show number 2.
Point being that we're hoping that the culmination of these things leads to some good stuff for that organization because it should be doing that.
I believe the Beggar's Banquet event begins at 5.
Okay, I think it might be 5-7 then.
Yep. So this one on the 21st at Carpe Diem is 5 to 7:30.
Okay.
Yep. That's in Detroit. There's the one on the 27th. It's how to start your medical marijuana cannabis business. This one's ran on Eventbrite. So there's not too much information about it, but it's on January 27th at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Courtyard Marriott in Southfield.
Huh.
Okay. I didn't hear about that before until right now, so that's news to me. Sounds like that's probably
saying,
George
Rick?
Brico and Company, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Did you say copycat, Rick?
Could be.
I didn't invent the business conference. I didn't. Okay, so I just like to make fun.
Rick invented magazines.
No, yeah, right. So there's no original story. I don't have any right to call anybody else a copycat. I'm just trying to make fun.
He's proud of his
trying to joke
own
a little bit. I don't even know who's throwing that event, so I'm not trying to throw a barb at anybody at all. I'm just my MICBD conferences were very successful, and Jamie and Deb were participants at times, and
yeah, they were awesome.
So this one's talking about like how much money you need to launch a business, stuff like understanding how retail lease works.
Yeah, we can't say thumbs up or thumbs down.
There's a lot of
I'm not
important
sure.
issues, a lot of complex components that go into being able to be involved in this emerging industry under the MMFLA, and some of these are quite legitimate and have great information for people. And
Yeah, I think
what
it'd be
about this
difficult
one,
to
though?
maneuver by yourself.
you
People
can't.
definitely
you
need
have to have a group.
yeah, you
and,
definitely
and
need
what you
to
can't
know.
do within your group, you have to
Right.
hire out. And there's a lot of stuff that you need.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Money
Look,
helps out.
the
too, by the way, in this
applications that are
process.
successful are going to be hundreds of pages long. And if you think you can assemble competently an application of that length on your own or with your own individual team, then you're sadly mistaken.
Well, even if you
Who's
think you
throwing
can.
that event on that date particularly, if you could, Derek?
We don't know.
It didn't really say. It's just let's see if I can find. It's by the Michigan Marijuana Contractor. It does say, and that's what it says.
I don't know who it is.
That's a new name to me. I've never heard of them before.
So we can't say yay or nay on this one.
We can't say yay or nay.
We can't-
We're
we-
neutral on this one.
The information that they're saying they're going to give you would be important. Whether or
Yeah,
not they'll
well,
give it to you, we're
Yeah,
not saying.
Yeah, you
that.
need to get involved with some kind of a group of some kind of a.
And it doesn't give the name of an attorney that's speaking or any of the speakers at all?
No, it really doesn't dive too far into it. This is just the ticket purchasing spot on the Eventbrite where I caught this one at.
That's the most important spot, though. I mean, that's
It should have all the info on it.
it should have it.
This is talking about
It's low budget.
basically
Maybe
the
it's sprinkles of
details of what you're
Low
going to
budget.
learn. It doesn't really
Get
get into.
cheese, get cheese.
All right, well, you heard it from
We
us.
don't know. There could be some great stuff there, or there might not be. There's not enough information to go on, but it is going on.
But I mean, Rick said it does
So
sound.
I'm waiting to hear if you
That
say a
was said.
particular event on the 27th or not. How astute you are in this research.
Okay, we're getting there maybe.
I have to go to find out.
What is CBD? How does it work? What are the health benefits? This is CBD 101 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, on Saturday,
Oh yes, I know about this.
January 20th.
It's at the Crazy Wisdom, right?
Yep, it is. Good job, Jamie.
Which is right next to the Home of Medicine.
Yep.
Okay.
So the Crazy Wisdom
I know where that
Bookstore
is.
and Tea Room at 114 South Main Street in Ann Arbor, and this is at 11 a.m. on Saturday, January 20th. That's this coming
It's a
Saturday.
very cool store too.
Yeah,
I
might
like
be
it.
cool.
That venue is awesome.
So you teach you everything you need to know about CBD, which is something I might be interested in because I'm sitting there trying to learn like if it actually would affect my dog. I have an elderly dog. He's he's still got it, but
Yeah, you help out your dog.
you know what I'm saying? That'd be good. I might go.
Cannabidiol. A lot of people have had success with it. Hemp-derived or cannabis-derived.
So the January 27th Medical Marijuana Facility Licensing Act seminar at Carpe Diem. We already talked about that one. Is that the one I first said? They got two names
Sounds
for it.
like it, kind of.
So they basically got two names for that one. That's cool.
There's a few
Double
of them that have
marketing, yeah.
changed names several times, trying to change their image. I assume.
And then had we talked about the MI Legalized Networking Night in Lansing on January 20th?
Yes, we did.
We did it on the 20th. There's also one on the 27th in Novi. I don't know. Oh, it's at over the border or something. Mexican across the border or something.
Yes,
Mexican.
the cantina. Across the border Mexican cantina.
Yeah, there it is. That's the 27th in Novi. Probably similar time with the 5 to 7 that we've been doing. But during the day, there's another one, 2 to 4, in Detroit. With the Cannabis Minority Group.
See, that's not even on here. Let us know about this. Should I look it up?
You should look it up.
M4MM. Jamie's speaking at that one.
I am with Dana Nessel and Earl Carruthers and Margot Bruner. And Earl has a really cool story. I mean, not a cool story, but a pretty deep story. Interesting story. I mean, his stuff led to some things that we could call positive, but he had to go through a lot to get there. His case had a lot to do with, for a while, only being sure that smokable or bud or leaf of marijuana was the only thing that could be considered legitimate usable material. And all the concentrates and extractions and things called into legal question and caused all types of problems, along with a scam with the state police lab, which Michael uncovered. They kind of worked hand in hand.
So what was this event called?
We'll look it up.
It's their organization is M4MM, Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and Margot Bruner is the chapter leader here in the Detroit area.
Yeah,
And that
Margot was with the big three, I think. With
Yeah, she was on the
logistics
show.
maybe, yeah, she's been here before, and talked about her organization a little bit, but she's come from more of a mainstream kind of an industry into this one because she sees a lot of, as many people do, see a lot of opportunity, and
Yeah, we're seeing more and more of that.
she's become more active in business and with the political side of things, and has this group going here, which is part of a national group, like a Michigan chapter of a national group.
So I'm seeing a little list of events here. On January 16th we got one. On January 20th we got one. January 28th. Which one are we talking about? The 20th?
It's on 27th.
The
Saturday.
27th. See, boy, that ain't even on here. So we got January 16th.
Yeah.
They're talking about Sunday Supper Club. See, I don't know. And that's in Chicago, Illinois, boys.
Well, that's not in
No,
our
the one you're talking about here is January 27th from 12 to 4 p.m. I'm sorry, from 2 to 4 p.m. It would be at the MSU Detroit Center at 3408 Woodward Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. It's called a Community Forum. How will legalization impact you and your community? They have a really nice flyer they've got, which is on the M4MM Michigan chapter page on Facebook.
And the one person I didn't mention yet, I was kind of holding off on it because I'm kind of excited because I really support her and want her to win her candidacy, and that is Dana Nessel will be a part of this conversation
Yes.
also. And it's always good to hear what she has to say. She is legitimate. I mean, I wouldn't be supporting her or being so insistent upon people dodging their typical political philosophies to get behind her because things are so screwed up that many are. And that'll be interesting no matter what. So Earl in himself is a really interesting story. It's great that Margot's facilitating this. Dana will be there. I'll talk a little bit about the emerging industry, meaning when MMA passed and some of the stuff got started with dispensaries and the caregiver system supply and how we kind of got going and how we got to where we are a little bit and how like Earl's case and others affected how we operated and that type of thing. But really looking forward to hearing Earl and Dana.
And if you do go to the Facebook page, you'll see Jamie's picture there. Look at it. You're famous, man.
Yep, and you will see Margot's picture and Dana's picture and Earl's picture.
Nice.
There you go.
That picture was actually taken right here
It was
in
taken
this studio.
here by Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Jeanette is a fine photographer.
Yes.
Amazing.
Jeanette Warner Photography.
Yeah, she did the
Jeanette
best she
Warner
could with Rick.
Photography.
I mean, you can only take that so far, but if you look at his page, you'll see that picture as well.
Dang. Sweet.
And she took some pictures that are on our site, and our jazzcabbage.cafe site, and the Facebook page.
She took some pictures that are on her site, and those pictures were out of sight.
And you showed up in some of them. You were in sight in some of them.
Yeah. I was
You were in focus.
the subject in a few. It was nice. One thing that we could talk about before we get going with the news, which I'm like on the edge of my seat for. It's all I can think of today. But Creed,
Yeah.
what's up, dog? What are you doing this week? Is there anything new that we should know about in the concentrate world or in our local community with concentrates? Now, don't name drop.
Okay.
Just product drop.
Just basically some same stuff, not live resin, but some sauce that I really like.
We got to get off the sauce. There's got to be something else out there for these people.
That's just what I like, man. That's what that's there's something for everyone, and lately
Sauce
that's been
boss.
for me. Yeah.
In terms of branding, what kind of stuff are you seeing? Who's putting out some consistent product that's...
I've been getting some the company's called New High, NUHI. Very good stuff from them. Always really flavorful and tasty and very potent. So you get the best of every world there. But
What's your take on crystalline CBD? I mean, I've been seeing it more and more. People just love to dab that stuff, and I enjoy it. Gives me a really medicinal feeling, a really a body happy.
yeah,
So.
yeah, I can agree with that. Early on, I used to order some from actually Colorado, just some pure CBD isolate. And you get in slab form or like powder form or whatever. And I think, honestly, in my opinion, that's the best way because it's so much stronger. So I think like the full effects are really like seen if you use it in that way.
It's isolated in that way, kind of, isn't it? Or
Yeah, and it's very strong too because it's like 99% like pure isolate. Yep. So
But I mean, okay, I'm envisioning the synergy of the other components in it. Kind of needing to realize itself by working in conjunction with some other things.
yeah,
And I'm sure by itself it does work for a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, what is this hybrid concentrate? It won first place at the Cannabis Cup this year. It's called the Limonada. It's by Arborside in collaboration with Critical Concentrates, Alien Labs, and Los Angeles Kush. That shit looked dang.
Yeah. That means lemonade in Spanish. Limonada.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like lemonade.
Yeah.
Second place was that Grape Kush by Moxie, Michigan. I like these names, man. These Michigan drops.
Well, Moxie's a good brand. I mean, they've gained a decent reputation or have gotten out there pretty good.
See, I'm not like one
Decent
that has
people,
followed
too.
those brands.
Decent people.
Mm-hmm.
I always go to the thing and be like, what's good? Ooh, Pineapple Chunk, a THC, a crystallite by Element Extractions won third place. There's a lot of crazy categories for the Cannabis Cup. It's like sativas, indicas, the crosses. It's crazy. I'm sorry, the hybrids. But it's just, I wish there was just one winner, like the best
I'm interested
concentrate.
to
Best
see
of
what High
show,
Times might
right?
be
Best of
doing in
show.
Michigan this year, given the change in laws and how they might look at whether or not they're coming, and if so, how they'd kind of
Yeah, I'm
put on
thinking
the
they
event.
probably won't be able to operate in Michigan. And even in a lot of states where it's recently, the laws have clarified what legality really means. California, too. I'm not sure they're going to be able to have these festivals anymore.
I remember us talking about that. We even
talked about
said
this,
that we
yeah.
need to bring that back up on the radio.
Yeah,
The other thing
we
is
did.
the contest too that you just brought up,
Mhm.
sativa, indica, hybrid, and stuff like that. I'm wondering how long those categories stay as they are. Either.
I don't like those categories. I never have. When people ask me those questions, I have no idea how to answer it. I usually just get a hybrid because I'm indecisive.
Everything is really a hybrid nowadays. Seriously. It is.
I think you're right.
Pretty
Bill.
much.
It's true.
It really
Things
is.
lean different ways, but they're basically everything's a hybrid.
I just don't like that it being so defined. Like a sativa will do this. You will always react to a sativa in this
Yeah.
way.
Well, we'd like to make things easy, black and white. I
We
mean,
like to put
when it
everything in
comes
a
to
box.
bud, the THC number doesn't really mean that much either, as far as in terms of just smoking the bud or vaping it or whatever you're going to do
It all depends on the person, the time of day, how
and
much
and the
you
other
smoke,
things that are
all
in
kinds
it
of stuff
as well.
going
Yeah.
on.
And so some
But
things
you know what?
sorry.
But we need a way to grade things. We need a way to compare this to that. I mean, if we didn't have THC content, it would be a different thing. I'd like to see us evolve to a terpene type of a based
Nice.
discussion about content as opposed to THC as the sole component that we ever see anywhere. But frankly, most of the people consuming cannabis are not as educated on this as we are, and they need a simple guide, a simple number to tell them better, worse, stronger, less strong.
You know,
Especially in medical states where, I mean, there's oftentimes not a whole lot of direction given to the patients
the emerging
about what they're consuming.
industry can provide a lot of this education in many ways, and I
But
think
it's
it
still
should.
a personal preference. There's always going to be people who like Bud Light and people who drink, craft beer. So it's
Right.
always going to be.
But as patients come in and they're seeking medicine, at that point there could be other things, seminars, educational things. The old school compassion clubs making kind of a comeback.
Yeah, it
People kind
is.
of want to stay out of the commercial stuff a little bit, or whatever. And somebody can come in similar to Nevada, where when you see the cannabis type listed, there's also the first 4 or 5 terpenes that show up in
It
the
should. They
in
should
the
be able to
testing.
do it, yeah.
And people can evaluate it that way.
Well, apparently, if recreational passes, if we do seed to sale and all, they're going to be able to do all these identifying markers on strains, right?
Just like it'd be nice to know like how developed it is before they pull it off the plant. I mean, it just like
Well, here's my thing. I'm sorry, please go ahead.
just because like and Chris and I were talking about this the other night. Like I think one of the biggest factors when people get anxiety is just people prematurely picking buds off a plant.
Well,
Well,
there's
a
no question
good
about that.
grower
But
knows
a lot
how
of these
to-
places that are
yeah.
selling flower commercially good places will have like a magnifying glass or something right there, and
Look
you
at
can.
it.
And so what I was getting at before is that the
But a good grower
emerging
knows when to harvest.
industry is an opportunity also to evolve with information and everything like that with the patients, and some of these places are going to take it upon themselves when somebody comes in. I remember there's these old commercials for this diamond store where they talk about when you come in, we teach you how to look at cut and clarity and carat and all these things, so that
Nice.
when you're evaluating a diamond someplace, you have a better idea of knowing its general quality and
Right.
standard. I mean, a lot of the people we work with are talking about utilizing something like that, when appropriate, to teach people kind of how and what to look for.
A good caregiver, a good bun tender should be able to do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, you have a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about.
That's what comes with building good relationships with people,
right,
and buying from people you trust. But at the same time, then you're going to get people from out of town that come in, and if things become legalized, and they're not going to have that relationship, and they too should have that same standard. It just
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No, I like your voice.
A lot of our retail transactions are simply that. They're transactional. I mean, people oftentimes don't want to take the time to be educated, so there still is a need, for a guide. Here's the other thing, in whatever you want to call it, but my real concern about Michigan's testing program is it doesn't require testing for terpenes. All it requires is testing for contaminants and things that can get you sick. It doesn't mandate that cannabis is tested for CBD content.
Yeah, I don't think
all.
that it. Well, the cannabinoid profile will be there, but so the CBD will be there. Maybe not too in depthly on the terpenes, but I don't think you need it to be mandated at all. I think a lot of consumers want more information. As they learn more about it, they're going to want to see more information. Those providing it, whether it's mandated or not, will get the attention of those people who see that as a higher standard of service.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess I thought that, and Jamie, you're way more familiar with the testing process due to your time that you spent, with ACT Laboratories than I am. But my understanding is that in order to produce the spectrometry that you need to see the profiles, to see where the particular hits on the particular chemical signatures are, that requires running through a mass spec machine that you probably wouldn't have to normally use.
I've actually invented a machine that can test marijuana.
There are these. Okay, I'm not an expert on it at all, but there are all these like different components you add on that handle different areas of specificity of testing, and labs outfit themselves with those things, and the mass spec is often used. But ACT, for example, had like 3 or 4 different testing methods depending on what they're trying to find out about the plant. Or what was going on with it, or even more. They're big in Illinois right now, and they require a lot of excessive, unnecessary stuff to be tested for there. So they're prepared to do many things, and some of those things require different kinds of testing. And so there's something to that, to what you say. I'm not prepared to answer it that expertly, but I know they kept on buying new equipment, upgraded equipment, to be able to capture more and more information of what's inside the plant, and they're really good about that.
I think that means just the weed is going to get tremendously better with all this.
Well, I'd like to
that happens anyway because it gets more
think
competitive.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You have to come to the table with better quality at a lower price. Ultimately, we've seen that happen every time we've been able to kind of run for a little bit.
Here's something for you to think about too. Even though collegiate institutions and government institutions are hampered in their research by federal prohibitions, we are not. I mean, what Home of Medicine did with Dr. Latinus and some of the other things they've done is take our actual experiences, the thousands and thousands of experiences cannabis users have with their favorite bud every day. And
we had a sanctioned test before that one.
Value.
Yeah.
We can advance our study of what we know about the way it interacts with our human bodies once we are able to accurately track what terpene content we have in each and every one of the samples we're consuming. And in that way, we can really define what terpene relates to what particular resolution of your health issues that we have. And get down to the compounding, Jamie, that we talked about in 11 and 12 and 13, the ideal circumstance.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
baby.
we need to get Dr. Dave Peters on this show because a lot of that got started with some unique testing that Ken Byer from the west side of the state brought to Michigan, and it was really cool. It wasn't as up to date to be able to do all the things competently that we'd want to have an official test that you can rely on consistently. But what it did do was able to see what was in the plant. It couldn't determine in what composition certain things were, but it could tell what it was. But based on that, we did a study with Dr. Dave Peters, who was getting his PhD in medical sociology, and he got his data approved by the IRB, the sanctioning body for, you collect data in a certain way and analyze it, and it's legitimate. It's a legitimate finding. And we participated in that early on. It was somewhat limited, but it started to show that those who have access to medical marijuana will use it over opiates, and that turned out to be very true because of subsequent studies, including the one that Dr. Latinas did that Rick mentioned, also demonstrated that thing. And with that, it is 5 o'clock, and Rick can start plucking away at the news at any time, and we should all get excited and sit back and listen to him.
Is it time for the news? I think it probably is. All right. Well, it is January 16th, 2018. I'm Rick Thompson. It's the Cannabis News. Boy, you know, that Jeff Sessions, just what a pain in my butt that guy has been. I'd like to see a Saturday Night Live character combining Jeff Sessions and George Jefferson. I think that would be a great character. You could call Trump Wheezy. It would be awesome. But some of the fallout from Jeff Sessions' retraction of the Cole memo continues, and it goes in different ways. Louisiana's medical marijuana program, just for an example, is just getting off the ground. They plan to have products available this summer, but now that whole thing hangs in limbo because of the rescinding the Obama administration policy that helped pave the way for legal marijuana in a growing number of states. Now, Louisiana State University's Ag Center has a therapeutic cannabis program. They are strictly a medical marijuana therapeutic cannabis state. Now, you'd think that the director of the LSU Ag Center or the Attorney General from Louisiana would be in support of their state laws, but no, I don't think so. This is what Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry said. I think Attorney General Sessions was right in doing what he's doing. That's the problem we're having in this country, where we have laws on the books, and we're just choosing which ones we want to enforce and which ones we don't. Now, wait a second, Dick. You've been enforcing a medical marijuana program that is in violation of federal law, and you've been doing it for years. Thanks a lot for your hypocrisy. We appreciate it. Second story, New York. Now, you know New York's got a new medical marijuana program, but they're always talking about going legal, not because they think it's the right thing to do, but because they want money. One of these loudmouth guys running for New York governor as a Republican is a former Erie County executive. His name is Joel Giambra, and that's a mob name. He called for legalized marijuana, but he wants the toughest, tightest regulated legalized marijuana program in the United States of America. Why? You don't need that at this stage. It's 2018, for crying out loud. And what's his motivation? Billions of dollars in revenue for infrastructure. He specifically wants to help pay for road and bridge repair upstate, as well as the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York. Now, there were always Democrats in New York calling for legalization, but for a Republican gubernatorial candidate to do it is a relatively new thing. But don't get too excited yet. Giambra probably faces an uphill battle in a race anyway, along with other Republican hopefuls. And there's an assembly minority leader who say he'll run as a Republican, and a state senator is also talking about running. All would be big underdogs because New York is typically a Democratic state. But Democrats were unable to get legalization bills off the ground in 2017 with zero support from across the aisle. Not good, New York. This is Colorado. You know, Colorado's been doing a whole lot of good things with legalized marijuana. You know, that industry is booming. Since the legalization of recreational marijuana in 2012, the state's benefited. They've used the tax revenue to fund K-12 education, housing development. The rate of opioid-related deaths decreased. Even the Colorado chief medical officer said there have not been any significant issues due to cannabis legalization. And you know what? They don't have a marijuana tracking system in Colorado. Oh, not yet. They're going to try. Senate Bill 18-029 calls for a tracking program, a seed-to-sale technology, but it's a little bit different. Listen to this. They want the Institute of Cannabis Research at Colorado State University, Pueblo, to develop marijuana tracking technology, including an agent that is applied to a marijuana plant, a marijuana product, industrial hemp plants, and industrial hemp products, and then scanned by a device. Why the hell would you need to track industrial hemp plants? Oh, my God. And the bill would then naturally ask the scan to accurately say whether or not the cannabis or hemp product was grown, manufactured, and distributed legally. Now, there's a lot of downsides of this proposed cannabis tracking system. It calls for an unspecified agent, and they want to apply this agent directly to the plant. The agent could be anything, a sticker, a tag, some kind of microchip. And while scanning agents may conceivably work to track some items, we need to remember that we're talking about plants. Lawmakers have yet to vote on that bill. They introduced it in the Senate session last week. If it passes, will it keep growers and distributors accountable, or will cannabis tracking system just inspire paranoia? No way to know. Canada, though, you know what Canada's trying to do? Some people in Canada are trying to get expungement included in their legalization program. And legalization of recreational cannabis in Canada is only a few months away, but it'll take a lot longer than that to clean up the mess left behind from prohibition. And one of the most pressing issues has to be to wipe the state slate clean for Canadians who have criminal records. Now, Bill C-45, called the Cannabis Act, was tabled recently, but the government said there'd be no general amnesty for past convictions. But now Liberals are starting to come to their senses a little bit. At a cabinet retreat last week in London, Ontario, I've been there, it's okay. Federal Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale said the government is examining the implications of possible pardon or something called record suspension, but that no action would be taken until after July 1st. And Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, for his part acknowledged a lot of people have been harmed by having criminal records, but he said some people will continue to be prosecuted for possession of marijuana until a legalized and controlled regime is in place, and not before. So anyone currently purchasing marijuana is participating in illegal activity that is funding criminal organizations and street gangs, said Mr. Trudeau. That's not so cool. That's not such an advanced way to look at it. However, we have one other story to talk about. Last story for this evening. It's from California, and this is another I don't like Jeff Sessions story. California's burgeoning cannabis industry has already been heavily reliant on cash and detached from banks. Now everybody's scared because of Jeff Sessions. Sessions' decision has left California state government and the legal cannabis industry scrambling to handle the ways to resolve all of the revenue that will be coming in. If you weren't already involved, this doesn't seem like the right time to start, said Robert McVeigh, partner at Harris Bricken, a Seattle-based law firm with a practice group dedicated to cannabis law. California's market faces a major influx of money with next to nowhere to put it. Now, the state already issued about 675 temporary licenses for all kinds of businesses, from grow operations and labs to retail dispensaries and food production businesses. You know, in 2016, a study estimated legalization would add $5 billion to the market. And in the absence of organized banking, where's all that money go? A number of startups offering alternative solutions to banking cropped up to tackle the cash problem. Things like CanPay, which boasts an app that offers debiting services via a customer's digital wallet at the point of sale. Here's the thing. The state of Hawaii made their entire medical program cashless. So they are using CanPay exclusively in Hawaii for cannabis purchases. However, that business model relies on protections granted under the Cole Memo. Since Sessions' move, CEO and founder of CanPay, Dustin Ivey, said some banks have paused services or backed out entirely. Some in the industry are turning to blockchain and cryptocurrencies to circumvent banks altogether. Even Potcoin and Hempcoin have been popping up. And though there was a political task force attempting to tackle cannabis banking problems in California, they had 65 banks meet together and agree to form a special coalition in order to resolve this. And then Sessions drops his bombshell. And in light of that news, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency is frozen like other banks and financial institutions, awaiting new guidance and evaluating their options. The man in charge of it all says this: the only immediate solution is the unrealistic one, the Fed deregulating cannabis off Schedule 1. Amen to that, my friend.
Wait,
and that is the Cannabis News, January 16th, 2018. See ya.
Wait, who's the big man himself at the end? That, by the way, great job everybody. That was a wonderful read, Rick. But who had that final say?
Mr. Russ Heinrich. He's the spokesman for that. I guess I didn't include his name, did I? Because I skipped over some stuff because I wanted to get done.
Nice. Okay, sweet. Well, I thought you were like talking about the President of the United States or something for a second.
Oh, I wouldn't call him the big man. Okay. I mean, look at his hands.
You mean the least?
Well, that was a really good read, man. That's a lot of crazy news too, and that like kind of at the end there kind of had me like with a little bit of a Wolf of Wall Street inspiration. I feel like I should go buy some pot coin or hemp coin.
There's been some serious talks about people starting credit unions. Jamie, is that the right term? Credit union for these things? Banking institutions just in one state that don't cross federal lines, that wouldn't be involved in any of the federal banking protocols, that could just take cannabis cash from these particular businesses.
I mean, it's going to force something.
Something that's not federally insured, maybe. Some community banks that'll kind of like just be very strict about the money handling, and some are actually charging fees to be able to use them for this because they have extra protocols they want to put into place. And there's all these different things that are unfolding. What actually is going to work and how it's going to play out until the federal government gets a little bit more realistic about what's going on. There could be a few different things.
Now, like when these guys can't use a bank, are they allowed to, or is there still some type of like security, like armed force, like a Brink security that normally those types of people work for the banks or funded by the banks, I'm thinking, right? I mean, what happens? How is this like all this cash even safely transported?
Well, the people that transport that cash are more heavily armed than Brink security. I promise you, motherfucking that.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So you're talking about this emerging industry and lots of cash is involved and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, because without the banks, without, that type of protection, things aren't normal. So, even if you just ran, a gas station that's pulling in whatever amount of money, you'd still
Well, that's what's going on now. That's what's going on right now in the state and has been going on for years. Cash industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
And that's the one thing we always said, is that there's no way they can tax a cash industry, and they know that too. They want to put everything on the books in order to be able to properly regulate it and get their cut. That's been the goal. Michigan lived in sort of a utopia for 8 years, where our industry was able to kind of exist and legitimately run our business without anybody fucking with it.
Now, when you say can pay, is that a strict? Is it strictly just for cannabis?
Yeah. So what you do is you would get an online account. You would dump money in that account, however you want to do that. And then when you go to the distribution center, to the dispensary, they swipe your little CanPay card like a credit card, and it deducts it from your online balance.
I'm wondering why, they couldn't just get away with using one of the normal ones, like a Venmo or a Cash App. Do you know about those?
Probably could.
Well, it seems like a similar style program. Maybe not specifically catered to cannabis, but I wouldn't think that'd be necessary. Isn't that your point, Derek?
Exactly. I'm wondering, is that a necessary factor just to kind of uniform everybody's system, or could it just kind of be all over the map? And I wonder if Cash App
competition to provide the
right
service. That's all those different things are. It's just similar to same idea.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, there you go. I mean,
some entrepreneur got to an important person and influenced their purchase decision on which program to use, I bet.
And especially if they incorporate with Weed Maps or something, you can just go on a menu, click that bud, buy it through the app, and then somebody just drives up and hands it to you.
Yeah, that might be a decade in the future, but I can certainly see where that would be a reality. Right now, the government is so scared about changing their complete prohibition to complete acceptance within just a few short years. A lot of those people in charge, it's just too fast for them. They can't absorb this information, this paradigm shift, so they're freaking the fuck out.
Yeah,
he don't freak out, man.
I think, in my humble opinion, we're getting ready for another small break, maybe to kind of readjust and refocus and freshen up a little bit.
Yeah, 5:20 break.
Yeah, that might be something that you want to work in normal.
I like it.
Let everybody get a few minutes after that intense news, just to break down,
let it settle in a little bit.
Yep.
The needle is moving forward. By the way, I haven't said that yet tonight.
Well,
remains
enjoy your
true
break,
nonetheless.
because I know Chris is going to enjoy his break.
Let's go.
Some preparation
Let's
for,
go.
for the break that's been made during
All right. We're back at the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. We just had a crazy break.
fresh off a mishap.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I had this really good candy, little chocolate balls. Tried to share them with everybody. Got a little too excited.
And now they're on the floor.
They're everywhere.
They were everywhere, but we have picked them up.
Thank you guys for
Everyone
helping,
thinks
by
it's
the way.
funny when somebody gets a little chocolate ball in their eye.
Yeah.
That was like a team building experience. I feel closer to you guys, and I trust you more now. Thank you.
Oh, that was a test?
It was a test.
Okay.
That's exactly why I
It was
did
by
that.
design.
Rick, are you still there? What the hell?
I sure am. You know, I was involved in a nice event this weekend. We did a pop-up soup kitchen in the city of Flint here for some homeless and disadvantaged people on the east side in one of my old stomping grounds right next to my junior high school. And as I'm reading news, I see that in California, people face misdemeanor charges for feeding the homeless. And I'm looking at a photo of a police officer writing what looks to be a junior high school girl a ticket for feeding the homeless. Now, I'm sure I'm probably not ever going to see a cop in that neighborhood driving past me as we're feeding people out there, but to what depths of low have we sunk, people? Holy fuck.
Yeah, I've heard about that in Florida, too, in some cities it's like that as well.
Yeah. Well, you got to watch out for them high school girls.
Devious. Next thing you know, they're shooting heroin.
See?
What, the little girl that fed the homeless?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty radical transformation.
Got to stop them now before it's too late.
Yep. Shooting heroin. Homeless and heroin. This is the H factor. It's the H train. Help the homeless. Get hooked on heroin. Oh,
Dang,
it's
Rick.
just like railroad tracks.
See, we told you guys we were going to have a weekly comedian. We promised that in the first weeks.
We had a comedian, but he kind of fell off.
Yeah,
hope that he decides to roll back in. He's a nice guy. And,
We'll each take
came up with some
turns
good
each
stuff.
week being the comedian of the week.
Yeah. I guess this week it's Rick.
It's Rick.
All right. Go
I'm
ahead.
I'm just drinking a lot of coffee today. That's all.
Huh.
So, I've been digging this new roast. It's called Highlander Grog.
Ooh.
It's an awesome blend. It's very flavorful. When you make a cup of that coffee, the entire house smells up. It's awesome. And I think cherry is a little more caffeine than the normal roast.
Nice.
So, what's up, guys?
I think we've talked about everything that there is to talk about.
All right, we'll
Cannabis.
see you guys later. We're going home.
What time is it?
There's nothing.
I
There's
gotta
nothing.
say this though, when we start talking about the future of cannabis in Michigan, I'm concerned about what we're seeing with the fee structure here. We talked about this on a previous program, but licensing and regulatory affairs issued new applications for patients and caregivers and other things, and they instituted some new fees and modified some existing fees. And none of that seems, to my mind, to be justifiable by the language of the MMMA. And it seems since both of the fees that they've added or increased were directly related to caregiver registrations, that this could be the first step in seeing a state-based effort to remove caregivers from the program. And we just need to be vigilant and watching for new bills that come up that might affect that, or subtle ways in which conservative forces may want to get that same thing accomplished without actually telling people that's what they're getting accomplished. Everybody has to be watching out for this.
Yeah. So at the end of 2012, there was a change in the legislation. There was a supermajority with which to change the act, and as part of that, there was a special account within the Department of Treasury set up for all the proceeds that were generated from the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program, and it's generated tens of millions of dollars. And one of the issues that goes along with what Rick is bringing up is that they've got no need to increase the fees, which is what they are essentially doing. So they're putting an extra burden on caregivers, yet there's no real compelling need to generate more money. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's assuming that there's attacking caregivers a little bit. And this state government, almost ever since the act has been in place, has been trying to hurt the caregiver system.
We've seen, and we mentioned this in a previous broadcast, so for those of our dedicated listeners that you're going to hear it again, we've been to the House of Representatives and we've been to the Senate, where we've seen Michigan State police officers and members of Michigan Sheriff's Association or county sheriffs say we want to get cultivation out of the residential areas. We want nobody to be able to cultivate at their home. And they could only accomplish that when there was an alternative system for delivery of cannabis to the patient population. And we've been very concerned about this, both with the MI Legalized proposal, MI Legalized 2016, and MI Legalized 2018. We were very cautious to make sure that we included home cultivation as tenants of those particular programs, because we feel so strongly about it. And I would absolutely hate to see the medical program, toss off the ability to do that. It would sadden me.
Yeah.
Jamie, what's our time frame on approval of the petition for MI Legalized? But
well, we turned the petitions in. The CRMLA had the press conference and the showing up to the office to turn them in on November 20th, and we were told that it would be about 60 days. And
about 4 days.
So that would be very soon. Mm-hmm. There was some count completed for the prevailing wage issue, I believe, and they actually came up short, but they are confident that upon the further
they'll challenge some of
review
those signatures
that it'll be good. There's two phases. They do kind of a shorter one, and if it comes up then, they're all good. If not, they have a more involved one, and if you really do have enough signatures, it should probably show up there, and they believe that they do.
Yeah, I'm confident they do too.
So by the next show, by next week, there's a good possibility we will know.
We should know. I mean, if they're following the proper, I hope somebody's up their butt on this.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure
I'm
somebody
not going to be
is.
surprised if they drag their feet a little bit. I don't think anybody will be surprised about that. Did you guys hear about, we've had to have talked about this, about Mike Tyson in his
I did see that.
California Cannabis Resort?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
What?
I don't think we've talked about it, but
we
that is a thing.
We should at least talk about it.
He's jumping in. He's another one of the celebrities who's got some resources behind him, and he's gonna put up a pretty elaborate scenario though from the description that I read.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have some versions of that in Michigan too. There are people
I
trying
think
to
you'll see some
do some things on a large scale here.
I don't know how successful they'll be.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
people come in without any experience. There's a lot of money in mouth, and we'll see how they do.
Just make a misfire as you can in
Right.
any business, and
Sure.
but people are willing to do it. There's already been a lot of money thrown. When I was in the business conference out in Vegas not too long, that was in November also. One of the seminars was on how much money was going to be thrown at this
Right.
and how much had to be lost before anything really got up and functioning.
let me say this about Michigan, though. Michigan sits at the almost at the top of the mountain here, because if we get legalization, and we're the first state east of the Mississippi, in the Midwest region that has legalization, because there are some some smaller East Coast states that have legalization. But if we do it the MI Legalized way, the Committee to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol way, it'll absolutely make this a tourist destination.
Sure.
We will probably take away from Colorado. A lot of people would rather fly here than fly out there.
We're within five.
Casino gambling in Detroit.
Oh my God,
Are you
John.
kidding me? Casino gambling and legalized cannabis.
We're within 500 miles of half the population of the United States, and people come here because of the Great Lakes State, particularly in the summer, as we know, and
or even up north.
totally, that's
Yeah.
the population's quadruple in some places up
Yep,
north
and
in
they
the
come
season.
from out of state right now.
Yeah, I mean, a couple resorts up there. That's where I'd be going.
Oh yeah, up around Traverse,
Why
The
would
new
Traverse
t-shirt
Bay,
design is born freshwater dank bud. Come to Michigan.
right?
Yeah.
Salt free.
Yeah.
Cheese, weed, and walleye capital of the world is supposedly pecaning.
Yeah,
have a resort.
they want you to
I
get
like
your weed and
cheese.
cheese, and they've
Weed and
maintained a
cheese.
pretty cool attitude about cannabis throughout the years, and they were ready to do this.
Right. Little cherry pie.
Yeah.
They went for it.
And I do like
So
it.
did-
We've had a successful presence in the state for a long time. I mean, shoot, did they say before 2008 the DEA said that cannabis and corn were the top two cash crops in Michigan?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Pumpkin's got to be up there too.
Pumpkins.
They do.
I
I don't think so.
Pumpkins.
I think soy is like.
Look it up, man.
I don't know.
No, we get a lot of stuff that we do well here in Michigan. You know, there's apples in the north when the weather's good, cherries, and we do. You know, vineyards are doing okay here too. But we traditionally have grown things like sugar beets. I mean, there's a ton of beet places, and we grow potatoes and we grow wheat.
Well, the farmers could use a new cash crop, and that comes with the CRMLA that we were talking about, because hemp is also included. And
Can you imagine having to tag every single hemp plant in an entire
Well,
field of hemp?
that
That's insane.
that could still happen potentially with the CRMLA. I think with the way the regulator is destined to do something, but it can't be that restrictive. There are more controls over the department than there are with this MMFLA within the legalization language. So I don't know how far that they can take that. But in either case, in order to get this started and implemented properly with reasonable approaches, we need the proper AG in there. And this comes back to our discussion of making sure that we support Dana Nessel so these things can come in and work hand in hand.
Huge.
These opportunities will be great
you
as
don't
long
do
as there's no
anything
stupid
else this year.
obstructionist roadblocks, as
Yeah.
Bill Schuette has offered us over
But
his
truthfully,
term.
I think it's the most important thing that we could do this year is to make sure that Dana gets in office.
I would agree. That's something
Yeah.
that I've been
I'd agree too.
kind
That
of
way
paying
we
attention
can.
If you
to.
do
And
nothing else,
I'll
do
start
this.
now and tell you that I'm starting to arrange a fundraiser for her at the Home of Medicine in Ann Arbor on Tuesday, February 20th. We'll talk about it many times leading up until then, but
Sweet.
if we could generate some support
awesome.
through that and some donations, that would be great. This is everything goes to Dana from this event. We're going to have a couple of sponsors. MMLE, Michigan Marijuana Law Experts, will be involved in that. A couple others. Possibly ACT Labs, who the operators got a hold of me, saw what Dana was up to, and said, hey, we'd really like to support Dana, so let us know what's going on, and I'll be talking to those guys and
I'll
some
tell
others.
you, everybody in the cannabis industry should be behind Dana. I can't believe that they would not be.
Yeah.
Well, there's the party itself that has reasons for wanting to field candidates in a certain way, obviously, but there should be no question about those of us who really want to see cannabis reform happen most sensibly the soonest.
This is our
Yeah.
best,
Get somebody-
our best bet,
and-
our
and
only
as
protection.
Tim Beck, I'm not sure if he talked about it on the show, and we had him on last week, but in conversation with him, he actually said, as a traditional Republican, which he feels is always moving away from because of all the bizarre political changes and twists and turns of what the parties are doing these days, he believes that this Democrat, Dana Nessel, represents the best chance of a civil libertarian approach being in that office, and I agree with him.
Yeah, Tim is a one-issue voter, too, so I'm not surprised that he's registering as a Democrat and supporting a Democrat because his one issue is cannabis reform. That's his issue.
Well, there's another guy that would fit more of the just reform in general kind of aspect than the former political advisor to Governor Engler and somebody who just retired from Governor Schneider's office in 2014 is also going to be at the convention with us supporting Dana so that there's a fresh approach and some integrity brought back to the
I
office.
think there's going to be a lot of people of that nature. And I, welcome that and I encourage that. And anybody who is not a Democrat, don't let that scare you. Register, come out, join us, because otherwise we could really end up in a bad situation here.
It's kind of, I view it, and I'm honest about it, even when I'm speaking with the Democratic Party, who kind of wants, people to stick around and just be a part of a unified effort moving forward with stuff. But, single, narrow kind of issued voters have a hard time doing that. But this to me is a way of still remaining somewhat independent. I really want Dana to be there. I can support her because I want her to be there, and these are the steps that you have to take in order to do that.
Yeah, no, just registering with the party doesn't mean that you have to toe the party line or that you ever have to vote for another Democrat. This is just a way that we can get her into this
and it claims to be a big umbrella party anyway, so these different views should be able to fit under.
Should be fine, exactly.
It's okay to want.
The Democratic conventions, there's so many arguments about people who are absolutely lifelong Democrats who don't agree about things. Everybody should be able to come and express a different opinion.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And it's true. I guess I was on one of the forums. I was called a dino, but and that's true though. I mean, I don't deny that, but it's still good for the party to have people like myself join for a while. And hey, maybe we want some other stuff. I actually like a lot of the Democratic candidates, so. I don't have any problem kind of jumping in and support on that, and if that relates to helping out the party overall, then good. Jeff Irwin for one.
Jeff Irwin.
Whitmer.
Gretchen Whitmer. I really like all the gubernatorial candidates are kind of good on our issue, but Whitmer actually kind of stands a chance in the race. It looks like right now, unless something changes in the next few months.
A strong personality too. You need to really, especially if you're going to take over the reins of this state from Snyder. There's an accountability expectation, and there's also, there's a lot of suspicion that goes with that. I think that when people look at Michigan government, they sort of forget who the governor is, and they just have their old suspicions and their old beliefs, many of which were reinforced by Snyder's fumbling of the water crisis. So she's got a big job to take care of when she gets there, and she's got the experience and the personality to make it happen. I'm a supporter of Gretchen.
I would like to see our Secretary of State, our Attorney General, and our next governor be strong women.
Yes.
Come in there and kind of right the ship. I think it's kind of what we need.
Regardless of the gender, they're just good candidates.
Well, that's how it would turn out. That's how it would turn out.
I would disagree with Patrick Miles' candidacy, even if his name was Patricia Miles and he wore a dress. If he made the same mistakes and did the same things, I would oppose his candidacy regardless of gender.
Well, there's no question, but the fact that it comes together that the three best candidates are women and that there is subpar representation of women in government right now, it all is very positive, I think, and I support that.
I agree.
Yeah.
2018 will be one of those rebound years, too. It'll be a backlash against Trump, and anyone that is pro-Trump, I think, is going to probably have a challenge. We see nationally that his approval rating is like 33%.
We've been seeing this, though. These people, though, they never leave him, Rick.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating to me.
If Schuette wins, I'm going to be convinced that they have access to manipulating the election results somehow.
No way.
I can't. I'm so embarrassed that our state voted Trump, but I can look at some things and understand a little bit, the bigger picture and how that might have come together. But if we vote for Schuette, I don't.
We're in a different political environment now because of the unfettered nature of political advertising and the way black money can come in too. So that absolutely favored the Trump situation, Jamie. I hope I didn't cut you off, but that.
No, there's no question, and we've had this discussion before. If candidates come out on a level playing field, we get a better representation of who the people want, and those who have the advantage with all the resources in the world now through all these ways of offering up endless amounts of money, even from the same source. It makes it difficult to challenge or compete with that if you're just a regular dude trying to participate in the process.
No.
Here
woman.
Here in Flint, I get to watch television commercials from Sri Thanedar, and Mr. Thanedar is a candidate for governor running on the Democratic ticket. He participated in our gubernatorial cannabis forum, and he spent millions and millions of his own dollars on this campaign in order to do this. And these spots I'm seeing him in are at the 6 o'clock news, and I know they're very expensive spots. The system that allows one person to buy so much publicity and attention for themselves seems to me to be a flawed one.
It worked for the guy who won the race in Illinois. I think he put out I want to say tens of millions of his own money, and this
Sometimes
guy's
it
putting out
works,
5 or
sometimes
6
it
million.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeffrey Feiger put out millions of his own, and really
People
failed
will
miserably.
know who he is at the end of this race, and that's got some value, particularly if
Yeah.
he decides to try to stay in the game and get an elected spot, whether it be running again in 4 years or whatever it is. But he might try for something else.
By the same token, the person who do the best in that job is probably a single mom someplace who's outspoken and has original thoughts and is completely capable, but will never ever have an opportunity because she doesn't have an $8 million war chest.
Yep.
The system is unfair. is my only
Everything
point.
turns out to be pay to play because everything is based on the monetary system.
Yeah.
We could bitch about that for a while if we want to get to the core of
Mm-hmm.
the reason that we're sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's all
think
about
if
the
we
money.
look at other Western nations and the way they do elections, we might find examples of better systems that are still effective.
No question.
Have you guys
Although I don't know.
have you heard about budandbreakfast.com?
No, tell us.
No, but I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah,
It's pretty sweet.
sounds
It's kind of like
sweet to me.
Airbnb, but 420 friendly
Ooh.
Airbnb type of deal. So it's you just go to budandbreakfast.com. Of course, they got a little app and such. They got a phone number. You can even call them. You just search places and find a cool place to go. And
We should plan a group getaway.
yeah, I was trying to look up Michigan initially.
Not Michigan, someplace warm.
See, that's what I'm saying. So right here, there's the Boulder spots. The ones in Boulder.
It's
are
not
so
warm in
fabulous.
Boulder right now. We want to go south.
There's St. Anne Parish in Jamaica.
There we go. There we go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Exodus Retreat. It's called.
That's
and
it.
It looks beautiful. There's Hawaiian
That's
bud.
the weird thing that
Hawaiian
sounds
bud and
awesome.
breakfast.
I'm there.
This is in Hawaii.
No.
$150 a night only to sleep. You're in Hawaii already, and this place is called Hawaiian Bud and Breakfast. That's the name of this place.
Well, if we split
Come
it
on.
between like 6 people, it's dirt cheap.
Yeah. Right? And there's this whole. This is crazy. Look at you get a pot leaf treehouse. This place is called Pot Leaf Treehouse. You just got to imagine it. It looks like a pot leaf in a tree. It's awesome. What do you think, Rick?
Who's in?
I'm doing.
I'd love to go to a warm destination and be unfettered by clothing for a while. Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. Bud and Breakfast.
So, just incidentally, I mean, doesn't mean anything yet necessarily, but I just asked somebody if they know what happened at the Lara meeting, I should say.
Yeah.
And the person wrote back and said, I thought that meeting was Friday.
Oh.
I said, I
So
heard it
maybe
was today. So that's where I am.
Maybe
It
that's
could
why
be
we didn't hear
Friday.
any chatter. Maybe that's why we haven't heard any chatter.
Yeah.
It could be Friday.
In which all the stuff that we said about it is still true because it was still based on not being there and just saying stuff about it. So it still applies. Just
There you go.
move it to Friday.
We're still right.
We remain correct.
So we got a few minutes left here in the show. We'll go off. There's a lot of great minds in the room and on the phone. What are we going to tell them to do? I know we just spent a long time telling everybody to join the Democratic Party
Yeah.
and support Dana.
Well, there is other things to do, and we talked about it, the effort that Brad Forrester has really been pushing on behalf of the normal strategy to let people know who their representatives are, where they stand on cannabis, and to contact them and ask them to support this bill. I wish I knew what the bill number is. I bet we could probably find it out pretty quickly.
We got to go around the entire table here and then on the phone.
And
And everybody's got to at least say one thing that you could do at home or not at home, just like listener-wise.
all right, so aside from supporting Dana for sure, which is our mainstay and something that we're completely going to try to push as much as possible at every turn, such as right now, this effort to get a hold of your federal representatives and support the states' rights,
Yeah.
to make it clear that states have the right to.
HR 1227,
Okay.
1227.
Plus, go to the normal sites, Michigan Normal and National Normal sites, and look at the programs on there too. You can get all of the contact information for your representative there and what to say and all that kind of stuff. That is a good one, and I appreciate Normal and Brad for really pushing that.
Nice.
Mine
You
is
guys-
still tied in with Dana. I want everybody to dig deep. Dana's going to need some cash. She's going to need money to run this campaign to win. If you cannot come out to some of the fundraisers that Jamie's talking about, at least consider going to her website and making a small donation. Any amount will help, and she's going to, because she is not the party pick. So there's not any big money coming at her right now. She's going to have to do it with our help.
Yeah.
Get others to toss a
Right.
couple bucks into.
It
Get
doesn't
others
have
to
to
join
be
the
a lot.
party.
Throw
No,
20 bucks,
yeah.
something, just
It all adds
anything.
up, right.
Right. She needs money. And,
send other people to the convention. I mean, yeah, it's obvious what could be done to get her
so many things.
elected.
Get creative.
So just help out.
But
I
if
agree.
she has enough money, she'll be able to pull enough people into the convention. She can advertise. She can get out there. I mean, she's everywhere right now.
She's doing a
She's
great job.
everywhere.
She's
She
being
really
invited to a lot of these Democratic meetings in which I'm being told that Patrick Miles is refusing to
Right.
show up at a bunch of these.
Yeah, no, he is.
So,
He is.
he's just concentrating
he's
on
doing
getting
the typical run and hide that we've seen from the Democrats in the state the last 10 years or so, the last 8 or 9 years or so. Sandy Levin used to. They all do it. They will not give you a straight answer. They're just trying to avoid this conversation. They feel that if they follow the party line on every other issue, they can just skate on this. But we can't allow them to do that any longer.
Right.
No, we need to know. We need to know where these people stand. And if they don't stand with us, then we're going to support somebody else. Simple as
There you
that.
go. You're not with us, you're
People
against
aren't
us.
voting straight party tickets anymore.
Chris, you got something for him?
I'd probably just go along the same lines of what they said. Go support Dana and go to some of these fundraisers and just do anything that you can.
And get a hold of some good sauce.
Sauce,
There you go,
sauce
yeah.
boss.
Sauce.
Sauce boss, man. That's your new name out
Sauce
here.
in
All in the
private
process.
areas.
Yeah, I got one for him. So this is kind of specific. So the next snowfall, it comes down hard. Put a flyer on Bill Schuette's on door, advertising yourself as like the best snow shoveler in the whole world. Shovel his snow, charge him $25, which isn't that bad of a price. He'll probably pay you. Do a good job. Maybe you'll get a tip. Use all of that money to fund Dana,
Oh, that's a sweet idea.
There you
and
go.
that comes from Bill Schuette.
Okay, well,
You
we
poetic
have
justice.
we're all going to line up
Easy.
in front of his house.
No
Right?
problem.
There we go. That's what I want
I
to do.
like
Rick,
the idea
you
of
got-
like knocking on the door, having him come to the door, arranging to shovel his snow, and then just not doing it.
Taking his money and
getting
not
paid.
doing
He's
it.
gonna rip him off, man. That's not our style.
Just do like half.
Can't join him like that. Rick,
Just only shovel the sidewalk.
you know I saved you for last now. And hopefully it's
Yeah,
good.
and I'll say that one of the things I'm going to talk about is not cannabis related, and but we should be supporting our particular people running for office, because that's really how things get done. There's another way things get done, and that's grassroots activism, and that's rolling your sleeves up and getting shit accomplished. And I mentioned it previously. I was at a pop-up soup kitchen this Sunday, and there are a couple of women. Each one of them had kids in tow, and they pulled up with their vehicles. They set up folding tables. They put up a tent. They pulled out gigantic cauldrons of awesome stew and utensils and everything else, and they put up a sign and waved people in, and they did it all. They did it all.
There you
And
go.
they were amazing. And you know what? They got not a single penny out of it. They got a bunch of thank yous and some hugs and some love. But man, it was 17 degrees outside. Okay, you could have, if anybody wanted a possible excuse to not go do this on Sunday, 17 degrees is pretty damn good. I was inspired, and a reminder that it's not just the Trumps of the world that make things better for people around you, or worse.
Good thought for the final seconds
Yeah, man.
of today's
That was
broadcast.
really nice, dude. So we're here every week on Tuesday.
Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Yeah, 4 p.m. to 6. Hopefully all of us all the time. So continue listening, because there's some really good stuff coming up after us.
Good night.
What's the show called again? Freedom Works. Is amazing, right?
Good stuff. It's amazing.
It really is.
It's a good
And
show.
one of these days, we'll actually stay here and discuss some related content on that show.
Very
Yep.
nice people.
So we'll see you.